1. I rarely have bad days at work, but oh boy, today this one customer riled me up. So for context, my restaurant has an online app store where customers can order from there and drive to our restaurant and pick it up. Whenever we receive an app order, the tablet makes a loud ringing sound, so one of the servers go over to that tablet, process that order, and send it to the kitchen. However, recently that tablet has been acting up and sometimes doesn't make ringing noises when someone makes an app order, which is bad for us servers because our restaurant gets incredibly busy throughout the day, and we don't want to waste our time in going over to a tablet and constantly checking to see whether we got an app order or not. There's a reason why the ringing sound is there. Our boss knows about the issue with the tablet not ringing and has attempted to fix it, but only for the tablet to stop ringing after a few days. Anyways, today my role at the restaurant was the cashier, which is the front, and that tablet is situated in my area. But dealing with app orders wasn't my main job, but another server's job. There is always 2 servers at the front, and I happen to be one of them. During lunchtime, the ringing was fine, but during the ARVO, it stopped. So we were checking the tablet every few minutes. I happened to get unlucky during dinner time because the server whose main job is to do app orders had her shift end early. So I had to deal with 2 jobs while also was at the front myself. At that point, my roles included to greet customers, give buzzers to them if our restaurant was full, deal with cashier staff such as paying customers, taking all the phone calls and also checking all the takeaway orders and giving them to customers. Our boss is pretty strict about who's supposed to be doing what role, so a lot of us servers are scared to do anything else beside from our appointed role. So, this is the juicy part. I had a customer come in and told me that he made an app order. When he said that, I thought, crap, I don't think I processed it. I went to look and bam, there was one new app order and it happened to be this guy. So I immediately went over and quickly processed it, and this was when he started going off at me. Started saying, "Are you kidding me? Are you actually processing it now?" And when he said that, I was in the middle of processing his order. I couldn't turn around and talk to him, but I replied with, "Yes, I'm processing your order, it won't take long." Customer repeated his question again, and I kept on giving him the same answer. Customer starts going off even more and said, "I did an online order because I don't want to wait." Which I completely understand that reason, but oh god, why of all times did this tablet stop ringing during this time? After I processed it, he asked me what the discount was for that mistake, and my dumbass, I've only been at this place for 2 months. This is my first job. I just graduated from high school. I'm literally just a kid. Why is he yelling at me? Thought he was talking about the 5% cash discount my restaurant offers, so I told him the price of his meal after that discount, and he said, "No, I'm talking about a bigger discount." Because this was already getting out of my control, and I am still considered new there, I went over to ask one of the more senior servers, asked her, and explained the situation to her. Customer walked over to her and I. He told us about how this had happened to him 4 times and said, "You know that dude, your boss? What's his name again? George-san? He has given me a 100% discount before. I know that guy, and he knows me." The senior waitress apologized and said that we'll give him a 50% discount, which is already a huge discount. This man has saved $13.30, which is close to the amount I make an hour. He also kept on going off about how he also has to drive to some such and such a place, which is only a 10-minute drive from my restaurant. He made it sound like it was a 40-minute drive. Told me his food is gonna get cold because of him waiting for our food. Like, mate, just don't order from us ever again, especially if this has happened to you 4 times. There's literally another restaurant that sells the exact same food, just a 2-minute drive away. Because I'm so inexperienced with dealing with angry customers, I felt so embarrassed that he was yelling in front of the whole restaurant. People were staring. I also kind of wanted to cry because how am I supposed to know that tablet wasn't working? How the heck does that ring not work for this customer? What on earth is this? I have to deal with the bundles of takeaway orders we get. I was so upset that while the customer stood in front of the cash register waiting for his food, I went back to the kitchen and ranted at one of the chefs and didn't leave until that customer left. I don't want to look upset in front of this guy or the senior waitress who was at the front telling the chef to quickly make his food because the customer was already unhappy. I'm so thankful that she was there for me. Before he left, he told me that he's going to write a, and I'm quoting what he said, "shitty review about you." After he left, I was so upset. I felt embarrassed to be yelled at like that. I'm trying so hard to do my job, but my coworkers were nice to me and told me it wasn't my fault, and was the stupid tablet that stops working at the wrong times. I hope it isn't my fault. I keep on thinking it's my fault. Another server came up to me and told me that this customer always makes complaints like this. Always starts yelling at one of the servers and always causing a scene, just to get discounts. So I felt slightly better that I'm not the first one who has dealt with this. But honestly though, got a 100% discount for his meal? Given to him by our boss? Oh my god. 2. Buckle up and send me prayers, guys. This happened about 2 weeks ago, but my brain has almost been blocking it entirely out of my memory, just for my own sanity. So I'll do my best to retell. To set the scene, I work at a diner that mostly specializes in breakfast, but closes at 8 so the diner shift can be a hit or miss. I'm usually the only server, besides one who fills in here and there, on the dinner shift because of how slow it can be sometimes. But it's a real curse when it gets slammed every once in a while. It was one of the slammed nights that I was doing my best with 9 or 10 tables, all sat with a couple of minutes of one another. Things were going wonderfully though, tables were understanding and everything was smooth sailing. I was feeling a little too good, too proud of myself. Something was amiss. A two-top waves me down, says, "Hey, sorry, we're doing fine. The table behind us, though, they sound really mad. One of them wants to get up and leave. We don't know why, but we've been trying to listen." I thank them and go scope out the situation. The table behind them, the one in reference, was 3 people. A disheveled old man and what I would find out later were his parents, regulars. An older man with hearing problems and an older lady with dementia, as I was told later. All of this is relevant, at least to me. I'm getting there. They had gotten their food and began to eat, and up to this point everything had been fine. We were cracking jokes and I thought I could feel it going well. The younger man, their son and the problem, had already been acting a little strange but nothing too out of place. While they were waiting on their food, he kept getting out of his seat to pace around the lobby and mumbling to himself. Aside from that, lovely table so far. Also relevant, the younger man had ordered the pork loin. So I walk over and totally not prepared in the slightest for what was about to happen. I'm like, "Hey, everybody doing okay over here still?" Before I can even get the question out, the younger man, who I will now refer to as the Undertaker, it just fits, you had to see this guy, he was scary, jumps out of his seat, lunges off in my face. "Do you think I'm fucking stupid?" I'm already terrified, who wouldn't be? But I have severe anxiety and immediately was sent into a panic attack just by the sheer shock. I squeak out, "I'm sorry," and he screams again, "Oh, you fucking should be sorry, fucking with my food like this." I was trying to sidestep away at this point for an escape anywhere, but the Undertaker had cornered me between his table and the counter behind me. I said, "Sir, I'm sorry. I really don't know what you're talking about." Trying to de-escalate as my escape was blocked by a giant man. Not to mention I'm a 19-year-old 5'3" girl scared of my own shadow. Finally, the man yells something that at least tells me why he's mad. "You serve me fucking chicken guts. You don't think I know what goddamn chicken guts taste like?" Our pork loins are frozen and they may not be the best, but as far as I know, chicken guts are not on the ingredients list. I'm like, "Okay dude, you're crazy." And out loud I say, "Sir, I'm gonna go get my manager." "Like hell you are. The wrath of God will strike you down, and your bitch-ass manager." Thankfully, as my manager finally notices all the commotion and starts walking over anyway. The Undertaker grabs his coat, screams, "I'm fucking leaving anyway." Screams at his parents to get a cab, then literally lunges towards me, as if to fake me out like he was going to hit me. Next, he takes off out the door, leaving his parents behind. If I wasn't in the throes of an anxiety attack already, I'm pretty sure that's where I started sobbing. I have a full dining room of tables waiting. My manager immediately tells me to stop crying, and knowing I want to work my way up to management tells me, "A manager wouldn't cry right now," after I was almost assaulted by a man triple my size. That part I just wanted to add because I was livid. The parents eventually paid and wandered out. They must have actually called a cab, as all three originally rode together. Not once did they speak to me after the incident, not even to say thanks for the check. I did get an update the very next day on the undertaker. His brother, we'll call him Kane, I suppose, another man similar of age but much nicer, albeit also weird, came in with the parents. The mother didn't remember me or the incident and even asked me, "Did my son yell at you? That's what everyone is saying." Kane told me that their entire family history, pretty awkward and unnecessary, but the undertaker is, obviously, mentally ill, has been refusing treatment his whole life, and even physically abuses the parents, spits in their faces, etc. Very sad story, but very awkward once again, as I'm being told all of this in front of the parents. The undertaker has also previously actually hit a waitress, so I'm considering myself lucky that I was only cursed? I'll spare most of the details of their family because now I'm rambling. Thank you guys for letting me vent, and please hope that I'm not struck down anytime soon. P.S. Mental health is important, people. 3. I just got home from work and I am still trying to calm down after losing my cool with a customer for the first time in my working life. I juggle a few jobs, but one of them is working at a service station and cafe, which is where this story takes place. We sell fresh food, coffee, fuel, etc. This happened at about 3 p.m. this afternoon. Today a customer pulled up to the pumps and starts fueling up his car. Normal enough. I'm cleaning behind the counter while watching people at the pumps when I notice this particular customer acting pretty strange. He's swinging off the side of his car, skipping between the pumps, and just generally acting pretty goofy. Weird, but he's not putting anyone in danger, so I go on with what I'm doing. He comes in to pay for his fuel eventually, and tries to pay with a gift card for an unrelated retailer. This is still fairly normal, people get their gift cards mixed up, so I explain to him that we cannot take the gift card of another retailer, and does he have another way he can pay for his fuel today? As we're having this exchange, I notice that the customer is swaying when he's standing still, and his voice is slurred and mumbling. The customer gets defensive straight away, and tells me this gift card is the only way he can pay. He has no money on his debit cards, and no one who can pay on his behalf. Still not unusual, this happens with people all the time. Store policy is that when this happens, we can issue an IOU and the customer has 24 hours to arrange payment. But this has to be cleared by the manager first, no exceptions. I jump on the phone to the manager, explain the situation, and get clearance to issue an IOU. Perfect. While I'm doing this, more cars have pulled up and more customers are coming into the store, so I open up the second till and start serving on that, while I'm also filling out the forms for the customer and making coffees and serving food. Once the customer notices that there are other people in the shop, he starts asking me why I can't just accept his gift card in a very loud voice. I go through with him again why we can't accept the gift card. It's not for our store, it won't work with our systems. He asks the same question again. I respond with the same answer and apologize for the inconvenience. The customer chuckles to himself and asks the same question again, and again, and again. He doesn't want to give me his name or contact details until I have answered his question to his satisfaction. It was at this point that my politeness started to slip and my frustration started to show. In a harder tone than I'd been using up to this point, I explained to him again why his gift card won't work with us, because we are a completely different retailer than the one his gift card is for, no affiliation in any way. Fine, fine, he says, he'll give me his name. He tells me the name of a popular brand of alcohol. This could be legit, it could actually be his name, but people have tried giving us fake names in the past so we can't contact them to pay their IOU. I smile and thank him for his name, and asks to see his driver's license to confirm the details he's provided, as per store policy. The customer just starts yelling at me that he doesn't have his license on him, and he's not liking my attitude. He's the customer, he's right, and I'm wrong. And he won't stand the disrespect. He tells me that he's done, he's going, and I can just cover the cost out of my own wage. Any patience I might have had evaporated at this point. No, sir, that won't be happening. If you leave this store, I will call the police.
What? How dare you? How dare you speak to me like that? No one disrespects me like that. You're dead. I'm gonna wipe the floor with you.
What I didn't realize was that my manager had been listening to this entire back and forth, because I hadn't put the phone down properly when I'd called him earlier. He lives very close to the store, and unknown to me was already on his way, as he could hear the situation escalating. Also relevant is that I'm average height, very slim, and look like a strong breeze would knock me over. My manager is 6'4" and built like a brick shithouse. He's the friendliest guy, but doesn't tolerate bullshit. He pulls up on his motorcycle just outside as the customer is explaining to me how his mates will find me and destroy me for how I treated him. Sir, clearly you aren't satisfied with my service today, so I'm going to pass this over to my manager so I can assist actual paying customers who aren't threatening violence. If you feel I've been inappropriate, I encourage you to file a complaint with the manager. I hope I never forget the look on the customer's face when he turned his gaze upon the towering figure of my manager, calmly taking off his helmet and saying with a look of steel in his eyes, "I've been listening to the way you've been threatening my staff, and I'm here to sort this shit out. You can fill this form out with me now and leave on the condition you'll be back here before 9 a.m. tomorrow morning to pay. And then never come back here again. Or you cannot, and I will call the police. This isn't up for debate. What is your choice?" The customer almost fell over himself trying to apologize and decided to fill out the form properly and go. After he left, almost hitting another car as he swerved out onto the road, we called the police anyway. Not carrying a license and driving in an erratic manner while showing sign of intoxication during school pickup time, nobody wants to be sharing the road with someone like that. Hopefully we won't be seeing him tomorrow morning after all. 4. I'm 23 years old, fairly soft-spoken, non-confrontational. So this starts off in Atlanta during All-Star Weekend, lots of tourists. I had to go help the Atlanta store out for the night because my normal store was not going to be near as busy as the Atlanta location, and they had multiple call-outs, so they sent me over there and started me off by giving me a 6-table section, which I'm fine with since I usually had a 5-table section at my store on weekends. So I've been serving for about 2.5 years, but nothing could prepare me for the fuckery I would witness this night. The place I work at is a corporate, family-friendly dining restaurant. But on weekends, this new store I was at closed at 1:30 a.m., rather than the typically 12 a.m. I was used to. So I walk in at 6 and I'm instantly double sat foretop and foretop, expecting 4 more people to come any time. By the time 7 hits, my section is full, and I have a party of 8 with 5 other tables, and I'm feeling the pressure of this true high-volume serving. When I finally drop the party of 8 check, they smile and thank me for being so patient and tip me $6 on $170. Pretty irritating, but it happens. I don't let it get me down. The same table gets sat with 4 women who come off as pretty cool. They are talking with me super nicely and give me their orders for 4 frozen margaritas and 4 appetizers. They all get the same thing, except one gets a different flavor of wing on her appetizer. This is important for later. I put their orders in, and when I get to their 4 frozen margaritas, the bartender made one on the rocks. I ask her, "Hey, this one was supposed to be frozen as well." She ignores me until I repeat myself, and she turns around, looks at the ticket, and tells me, "Nope, one of them are on the rocks. If you want me to make it frozen, re-ring it in." I tell her okay and go over to the point of sale to print out the receipt, where it clearly says 4 frozen margaritas to hand to her. When I come back, someone ran my drinks for me. Now I'm feeling a bit frustrated. I don't bother showing her the receipt, they already went out. I walk to my table of ladies and they are visibly irritated. "We told you 4 frozen strawberry mango margaritas."
all sugar rims. How do you mess that up?
One of them tells me. Her friends tell her to calm down and stop being rude. I apologize and said, I can get you the proper drink. I'm sorry, it must have been a mistake. And she just laughs and says,
No, I'll drink this.
So I run some food, get other tables' apps out, and the margarita ladies order another round of margaritas. As I'm walking away, the confrontational one yells,
Make sure you don't fuck it up, baby.
I put another round of frozen margs in, and they all come out great. I carry the drinks to them. They are silent as I drop the drinks off. And as I go to the last one off the tray shakes off my hand and drops. I put the drink down on the table and apologize, and one of the ladies say, Oh, don't be nervous. I just keep ignoring the comments and go in the back to get their food. I grab their meals and deliver it to them. As I'm dropping the food off, I realize I put in the wrong flavor of wings for the appetizer. Fuck. I drop off the 3, and the one I forgot was the Heckler Girls app. Worst fucking one to forget. So I hand her the wrong wings. One, it's a combo platter, so there is other stuff that comes with, not just wings. Before I can say anything, she yells, These are the wrong fucking wings. I apologize and offer to get her new ones, and she can just hold on to the app while I bring her the correct flavor wings out. She then slams her hands on the table, flips the combo app on the floor, and yells,
No, fuck you! I don't want this shit!
I just look at her and walk away. Don't really want food thrown at me. So I go and grab the store manager, short black hair, super petite girl who's 35 but looks like she's my age, and she goes and talks to the table, and the women start screaming about me, how I have fucked everything up for them tonight, and she should be embarrassed to have me on her staff. The manager asks if she can please lower her voice and start to apologize on the kitchen's behalf. But the heckler lady didn't want to hear it, and started to cuss and get even more irate, until she picks up her margarita glass off the table and goes to throw it, which the manager snatches from her, insanely fast. I didn't even process that the girl was about to throw a glass. The heckler is completely silent and is just staring at my manager, waiting for her to say something. Get your stuff and leave now. You guys are still here in 5 minutes? I'll have to call the police and have you removed from the scene. And please don't bother any more of my staff in my restaurant. As I was walking my section, they stayed for a few minutes, and then tried to flag me down. The manager told me not to acknowledge them anymore, unless it was to remind them to leave, and they wouldn't have to pay. One of the girls, who was being nice to me the entire time and telling her friend to calm down, grabs my apron and starts asking for a to-go box. I turn to them and say, Nope, get out of my section. You guys have been very disrespectful to me, and I will not be getting you guys anything. And walk away into the bathroom, where I proceed to cry for 5 minutes. When I came out, they were gone, and I just tried to proceed with my night like nothing had happened. When I got off, I had made $160, when the other servers had all hit 250 to 300s. I was exhausted, but I learned more than I ever would have. 5. I'm a waitress. Our restaurant strictly requires masks while indoors if your meal and beverage hasn't been served, and after it's been bussed. The mask mandate honestly wasn't that helpful in corralling unruly customers, because they'd either argue that the mandate was not a law, so they wouldn't follow it, was unconstitutional, so they wouldn't follow it, or was irrelevant because they'd eventually be taking their mask off when their food was served, so they wouldn't follow it. But while the presence of a mandate didn't help much, the lack of a mandate has made things way, way worse. People who previously wore a mask now don't believe it's necessary for their health, or that we have a right to set mask wearing as a store policy. But what they don't understand, and what I'll reiterate for you now, private businesses can have any dress code they want. Ever go to a fancy restaurant that requires suit jackets for men? Or a grocery store that requires shoes? Yeah? Where were the freedom fighters then? Anyways, regardless of your opinion on masks, no need to argue it to me, in the comments or as a customer, because the owner makes those calls. My job is to enforce his decisions. Whether that be all customers have to wear face masks covering mouth and nose, or if it were all customers have to wear sleeveless denim vests, I'd have to enforce it if he wanted it so. That's literally part of my job. Our in-house mask mandate at the restaurant remains firmly in place, and I spent my entire shift telling people to comply or leave, then telling them again, then a third time, then getting our larger, more physically intimidating line cook to tell them. By the end of the shift, I was a master at putting my hand up authoritatively and saying, "Sir, ma'am, it is your choice whether or not to wear a face covering, just as it is our choice to service you in this private business. So comply with our dress code or exit the premises." A few people called the police, or more likely acted as though they were, but at no point did any real authorities bother coming. After my shift ended, I was absolutely exhausted and ready to forget anti-maskers, COVID truthers, and just eat some banana oatmeal. I hit the supermarket on the way home, and the chains still require masks. As I approached the door, most people were maskless but stopped short of the entrance to put masks on. When seeing the sign, no problem. The people directly next to me, though, a mom with a classic Karen haircut, and a teenage son approximately 15, didn't. The mom actually did pull a tattered, ill-fitting surgical mask on. She wasn't even wearing it correctly, but still better than nothing. Her son, though, didn't break stride, just kept heading into the store. His mom flagged him down and said, "Jeremy, put a mask on, it's a policy." Kind of quietly, as though she was trying not to anger him, he said,
"I thought we didn't have to do that bullshit anymore. I saw it in the news."
His mom explained that businesses still require a mask even if the state no longer did. At first I was thinking, props to Karen, her haircut is totally misleading. But her son couldn't just let it end on a nice note. He whined that he didn't bring a mask, and he didn't want to walk all the way back to the car to get one. And there wasn't Wi-Fi in the parking lot, so no way was he going to wait for her in the car. If he had a mask in the car, why would he have had to wait for her there? Mom tried to think of a rebuttal, eyeing the policy no exceptions sign, but seemed too tired to generate one. So she just braced herself and they headed into the store. A greeter stopped the son and said he needed a regulation face covering, but he ignored her, grunting,
"Don't have one,"
and kept walking. The greeter called after him, but couldn't move from her spot by the door, and eventually he was too deep into the aisles to notice. I found all of this offensive, however. I was too exhausted from dealing with guys like him professionally to take it on personally. I just went about finding the right color of bananas and trying to get back to my car as quickly as I could. Fast forward to the deli counter. I had taken a ticket and was standing on line. Karen and her son were right nearby. Happily, several people were giving Karen's son the evil eye besides me, and keeping a healthy distance from him. But he could not have cared less, and neither could his mom. She was placing a long, elaborate deli order, and he was picking up lemons in a nearby display and putting them back. Her son was having a loud FaceTime conversation with a friend, expelling his air and his noisy chatter onto shoppers in every which direction. But I tried to put it out of my mind because I just did not have the bandwidth to deal with people like this one more time tonight. That's when it happened. He coughed, maskless and directly on the lemons. I was getting ready to say something, but thankfully a deli worker noticed and called him out, saying, "Who's coughing?" Looking all around and noticed a kid. "Hey son, you've got to wear a face mask to be in here." Karen Jr. shrugged his shoulders, but the deli guy wasn't having it, pulling out the corporate policy sheet, so Karen Jr. looked to his mom for support. She seemed genuinely embarrassed by her son, but not so much that she would hold him accountable for his dangerous choices. She hurriedly explained, "Oh, he has a mask, but he left it in the car and we parked in the far lot." Deli counter guy was persistent, though, saying, "I don't care where he left it. It's a policy. Mask up or head out." He took a few assertive steps in the kid's direction, which I guess was too much for Karen to handle. Because she threw herself in between her son and the worker, there was still easily 10+ feet of space between them. He was hardly chesting up to the kid. As Karen triumphantly declared, "This store isn't allowed to have that policy anymore. Didn't you see Governor Abbott's announcement? It was never a law, anyways." That stymied the deli guy. My guess is because he had seen the announcement, and he wasn't sure what to make of it. Didn't want to risk his job if he really couldn't enforce a mask policy anymore, and had a line piling up at his station, so couldn't argue with her all day. So he stepped back, but not before saying, "Well, either way, you shouldn't need a law. It's a paragon of selfishness what you're doing. Son, my mother is dead of this disease, dead in the ground. Never got to meet her granddaughter. She wasn't too much older than your mother. You should think about that." The kid, unblinking, laughed at this guy. Not chuckled. Full-blown belly laugh, cackling. His mother pulled him away, saying he was being rude, but didn't make him apologize, let alone apologize herself. I placed my order, told the guy how despicable that exchange was, and apologized for his loss, and that was that. Or so I'd hoped. I prayed I'd be able to avoid them for the rest of my trip, but lo and behold, just as I was about to check out, I realized I was out of plastic wrap. I always have leftovers, so I needed to go for the wrap. Didn't matter how close to checkout I was. I doubled back, holding my breath, no pun intended, and sure enough, the mother-son super spreaders were stationed at the end cap having an argument with a clerk. As best I could figure from the bits and pieces I picked up, customers were complaining about his coughing enough to motivate a manager to confront the family. The manager was physically intimidating, so I guessed he was the staff's go-to guy for confrontations, but it became immediately apparent he did not have a personality for conflict. His name was Chet, name tag, and he was a human teddy bear at like 6'5" and 300 pounds. He had, to his credit, managed to get Karen's cart away from her, holding it to the side so they could not continue shopping until her son put his mask on. But now Chet was pleading with Karen, "Please don't yell at me, I can't understand when you're yelling." Karen was going off on Chet about laws he'd broken, the discrimination he was enacting against her poor son, how the entire store had been harassing a minor child since they entered, and how the news and corporate office would hear about this, and he'd be out of a job, and no one is hiring right now, so he'd better be careful. Chet seemed genuinely surprised as he tried and failed to communicate to Karen gentle reassurance of, "I'm trying to help you actually, ma'am. I don't want to harass anyone, I want to work this out. The situation at hand, though, is that you cannot continue to shop until your son conforms to our corporate masking policy for the well-being of the communities we serve, all right? Help me help you." Meanwhile, as Karen was preaching, well, screeching, the innocence of Karen Jr., her son was actively berating her, telling her she was embarrassing and ineffective, and she was so stupid for wasting time arguing with these people, and he wanted to just ignore them and keep shopping. He was a toothpick and Chet was a redwood, so I don't know in what universe he thought he'd ignore the situation and continue about his business, but oh well. Anyways, at this stage I realized it was disrespectful to just be a voyeur to the spectacle. I would either have to speak up or move on with my shopping. Maybe this was the straw that broke my back. After the day I'd had at work, maybe I was just on autopilot, or maybe I felt sympathy for Chet. Probably a mix of all three, but my mask-enforcing persona roared to life. Luckily, I was still also wearing my work clothes, including name tag, or this might not have worked. I stormed over with my most authoritative manager of the manager swagger and said, excuse me. You're creating a disturbance. Do we have a problem here?" Poor Chet started trying to explain and remove me from the situation, thinking I was a concerned customer who was upset by the disruption of their altercation, or worse, a third member of the Karen party. But I just fell into my script, which I had done cold at this point, reciting, "Sir, ma'am, you have a choice as to whether or not you'd like to wear a mask, and as a private business, we have a choice as to the dress code we'd like to set for our customers. You have two options as to how we can proceed from here." Karen just kept talking over me while her son bitched at her to stop engaging with us and keep shopping, including this gem of a line, "They're literally lower than rent-a-cops. They're the can-stacking people, just ignore them." So I went into the Phase 2 script. All right, you've made the choice not to partake in our services, and we have, in turn, made the choice not to service you. Please leave now, or you will be escorted out. If you leave of your own volition, you will be welcomed back if dressed appropriately. If escorted out, a permanent ban will be issued. Please note, we have a clear view of your face on our CCTV to reference, as you are not currently wearing a mask. That nearly made Karen Jr.'s head explode. He started shouting obscenities at us, and I just flatly stated, "My colleague is contacting security." Getting edgier as he escalated because A, I made the assumption the store had security, but it was dawning on me that I had no clue whether or not they did, and B, Karen Jr. was physically larger than me. So I thought back to the stories of store workers being attacked, even killed by anti-maskers for enforcing these policies. For a minute I wondered if I should have kept my nose out of this business. But Karen stepped up to the plate. Better late than never. She started pulling her son towards the door, insisting, "I cannot be banned from here. This store is easily the closest to the house. Come on! Come on!" He resisted at first, even intentionally pushing over the end cap display in a rage. To which Chet offered the strong words of, "Hey now, was that really necessary?" When he started destroying property, Karen left him to face security on his own, and made a beeline for her car. After about 15 seconds more of kicking stuff around, Karen Jr. realized he was left standing on his own 2 feet without Mommy there to shield him from real-world consequences, and absolutely broke down. A wave of terror washed over him, and just as quickly as he'd flown into the initial rage, he bolted for the exit. Chet was so casual about all of this. He turned to me and asked, "You don't work here, do you? Well, I've never seen you before, and..." I explained what I'd been dealing with at work and how I felt obligated to step in as a result, and he sincerely thanked me, even offered me coupons, but chillingly said that while he appreciated the thought behind it, next time I should not get involved. He warned me that some of the anti-maskers had been wholly unstable, hitting or spitting at employees, and they did have a usual security guard, but he was out that day because of an injury an anti-masker inflicted on him at another job site. It's only because he was out that they sent any regular store workers to confront the kid at all. He sighed and said, "This is mostly what I've been doing today. I don't know if it's because I've got a calm demeanor or because I look like I don't have a calm demeanor, but either way, I'm always the one they send to deal with the crazies." I was so distracted by all this I didn't even end up remembering to get my plastic wrap. I just checked out and headed home as quickly as I could. So stay safe out there, everyone. Wear your masks, keep your distance, get the vaccine, watch out for one another. We'll be through to the other side of this soon. Not as soon as we could be, thanks to people like Karen and Son, but soon. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 132. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and or subscribe by looking at it really hard. And if that doesn't work, then just boop it with your finger, click it with your mouse, or maybe do like a handstand, if you're able to do so safely, and just kind of poke it with your toes. That'll also work. Or you could try just kind of leaning really cozy into the screen, as if you're trying to hear, then nudge it with your ear. But you need a touchscreen to do that, so phones and tablets only. Or fancy touchscreen monitors. I'm going to shut up now. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. Well, actually, no, I'm not. Not sure when this goes up. Hopefully go up about 5, 6 o'clock. Then that means there will be a a gaming stream later tonight. Do a split stream between No Man's Sky and Phasmophobia. At least that's the plan. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.